This time of year, it's really neat to reflect back and see some of the wins we've seen so far this season in the middle school. One that comes to mind is creative problem solving. It's so easy to look around at the world around you and notice challenges and things that need to be fixed. And what's really encouraging about this studio that I'm working with is that they're able to really name and identify problems, but they're also in a position to ideate. And they're really developing the skill of recognizing challenges, but then working together as a group to ideate and brainstorm all sorts of possible solutions to those problems. So watching their creativity rise and kind of their group think emerge as they creatively problem solve is really cool. Another thing I think of as a major win is how much these learners are starting to hone and own their own interests and passions. We've had learners that are discovering they're really passionate about the environment or about caring for animals. And so they have worked with veterinary practices or animal rehab situations. And then we have learners that love things like volleyball or love things like chess, just a great spectrum of interests and hobbies that they're then developing, growing, and they're pursuing through passion projects or real world apprenticeships. And all of these things, while in this age and this stage of their life, some might view as like small, trivial things, many of those are really threads as to the people that they're starting to be woven into. So it's incredible to watch them develop and chase those interests and passions. And it's really exciting working at a place where they're not just allowed to follow their interests and hobbies, they're actually encouraged and empowered to do so through things like apprenticeships and passion projects. So it is really energizing to see the studio both acknowledge problems, creatively problem solve, but then also start to delve deeper into their own personal interests that lead to exciting futures. So those are some things that I'm really excited and grateful for this season.
Parenting today feels different, faster, busier, more anxious. Our webinar series invites caregivers to shift from reactive to grounded, from anxious to healthy mindsets. Episode 2 will be this Friday at noon Eastern. We invite you to participate, come, discuss, learn, and grow together.
My husband and I have always envisioned a certain schooling environment for our children, and we really didn't find that anywhere else. So when we heard about the Forest School, I was super excited. Like, we instantly knew that that was a place for us. I was homeschooling our children before, which was great. It was awesome, but just having multiple kids with different learning styles, it was hard to keep up with. So the Forest School was literally like a godsend for us.
I think it's important for kids to be able to feel responsibility, not just with their learning, but with life in general. And because kids spend so much time in school and around other learners, this is a really great breeding ground for responsible and motivated adults.
Transition from public school to the Forest School was kind of scary for me because I grew up in traditional public school. But listening to my wife and my child talk about the possibility of the school, what the school could do, just opened my eyes and said, okay, let's give it a chance.
I was just so excited about the whole process. I knew it was a good fit for her. And she was overjoyed, like, Mom, I know I can do this. Just let me try. And I said, I know you can, and so we're gonna do it.
And I asked her how her day was, and it's great. It's great. And for a father to hear that from their child, it makes you feel terrific. Just to see that your child is excelling so much at this school.
So the Forest School model, I feel like, is a perfect segue into whatever you choose to do in adulthood. But even now, I feel like the passions that they are, choosing to delve into, they have the perfect setup. I believe that the mentoring that they receive, my daughter has a fantastic mentor. We're so grateful for her, as well as the apprenticeships that they are allowed to do. I think really, really sets them up for success in the future.
I feel like the learning model
of the Forest School is actually setting them up for such a beautiful way of seeing life outside of school. And I think that learning to be accountable, learning to take initiative for yourself, learning to self-regulate as much as you can, and just these real world disciplines that they're learning right now are so much better for them than just learning to take instruction and do it and not really think further.
It's not traditional, and it's not for everyone. And you should know your child, and it's very hard to break out of the traditional way of thinking of learning. But you have to think about where the future is headed and where education is in the future. And change is hard, but it's necessary.
I think one of the things I'm most excited about the Forest School is that it's preparing our learner for something different. I think the way I grew up and what we've seen to this point is a very linear journey in terms of how education is structured. And I think what the Forest School does well is it really challenges learners to think differently about what they can and can't do. It exposes them through the apprenticeship program or even through guests that come into the school to speak about it, or whatever their topics for their exhibitions are going to be. It's just challenging them and exposing their little worlds to so much more. And I'm just excited to see where this takes her, because in my mind, she could do anything. And I'm not quite sure she would have felt like she could do anything in her other school model, but at the Forest School, I think that's absolutely what they're setting her up for.
I think very early on, me and my wife had the discussion like, well, what would she learn? How do we know she's learning? So we had all the questions, because when you're in public school, I can get a progress report, I can see, but when we start understanding what the Forest School was all about, we understand that the learning was going to be a deeper draw from them learning. So, I'm real impressed.
So we are finally getting our rhythm, and it's been several months later. But it's rewarding because what I see in our learner, it gives me this sense of calm, like, okay, we're here. I was apprehensive at first because it just took some time to get adjusted to, but now I can see how she's thriving.
I think it's setting her up for success in life in a way of being self-motivated, taking charge of her own destiny, not being afraid to take risks.
Because of the fact that they are taking ownership of their own learning at such a young age, the independence that it creates at such a young age is just going to serve them so well for the rest of their lives. Regardless of what they want to do, regardless of their interests, they will have an ability to grasp things, to learn. They'll have an understanding of how to get information, how to collaborate, how to work with other people, how to get things from other people, how to share things with other people.